my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
This was their finest hour.
That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
Principled, passionate, preaching, these are the hallmarks of the prophet archetype, represented in modern times by the boomers. Their words have the power to unite, yet often serve to polarize.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Drawing lines between us and them.
Lock them all up.
Deepening divides until we're on the brink of civil strife or a world war that resolves in the stark climax of the fourth turning.
All this expedition needs is a leader.
Where's our leader?
An army without leaders is like a foot without a big toe.
Maybe that's all we need right now.
Toe?
A leader, an elder, a prophet, to guide us through these troubling times.
Good luck finding one of those today.
I know. We like to blast the boomers every chance we get, but like every generation, every archetype, they are necessary, the good parts and the bad, to propel society forward. And right now, boomers play a pivotal role in steering us through this turbulent period known as the fourth turning. To grasp the fundamentals, we recommend clicking on this link to our introductory episode, which provides an outline of the concept. And do yourself a favor and pick up a copy of one of Neil Howe's books. They are invaluable. But since today we're talking specifically about the prophet archetype, let's give you a quick overview about them. The prophet archetype grows up as increasingly indulged post-crisis children, like the boomers after World War II. They mature into rebellious crusaders during the awakening turning, fighting against institutions for civic rights and personal freedoms, so they can turn on, tune in, and drop out, becoming moralistic midlifers who preach do as we say, not as we did values to the youth, while some take advantage of society's further unraveling to enrich themselves and eventually become detached yet visionary elders, overseeing the unfolding of the subsequent crisis. Some of the most revered people in American Western European history are in fact prophets: Martin Luther, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Harriet Tubman, Queen Victoria, Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, Marie Curie, and Franklin D. Roosevelt.
And now we've got...
Actually, what you're feeling is not uncommon. Before World War II's peak, FDR was labeled everything from a waspy commie sympathizer to a fascist dictator. Lincoln, who was initially seen as a rural simpleton and a moderate on slavery, was only compelled to take a firm stand after the Southern states succeeded. Even Benjamin Franklin, once the deputy postmaster for the British Empire and a skeptic of American independence, shifted his stance following pivotal events like the Boston Tea Party.
So what you're seeing is like my pythons, leaders are made, not born.
Exactly. As history unfolds, prophet elders will hopefully lift us up and successfully guide us through this fourth turning.
So why don't they just step in beforehand and make sure things don't go completely to shit?
Well, in a way, they tried. For the last 25 years, boomers have dominated the government and corporate boardrooms. So let's reverse the wheel of time and examine some of their decisions.
Both trade towers.
Go back to 9/11, which Neil Howe calls a precursor to the crisis turning. At first, America, and I would personally say the majority of the globe, was united. But that was quickly squandered.
The transition from dictatorship to democracy will take time, but it is worth every effort.
I'm no military expert, but I think it's safe to say that the Bush presidency didn't help matters in the Middle East.
The
American financial system is rocked to its foundation.
And then, in 2009, with the Great Recession, President Obama and Congress stepped in to save the financial system.
And that is why the time has come to build a 21st century economy in which hard work and responsibility are once again rewarded.
But this proved to be elusive, as the banks who caused the crisis were bailed out, meaning Wall Street could return to business as usual. Wealth inequality rose to its highest levels as the Rust Belt was gutted in favor of cheap labor from China. Millennials piled on student debt to make sure they could find jobs in this new economy, and when they finally did get one, they didn't make enough to purchase a home.
This is the best way for Iran not to get a nuclear weapon.
In hopes of getting the United States out of the Middle East, President Obama and his advisors tried to cut deals with Iran. They allowed Syria to disintegrate. Russia took over Crimea and Ukraine. Iran's influence in the Middle East grew, and China became an economic and military global force with their eyes on Taiwan.
We're mad as hell, and we're not gonna take it anymore!
While at home, the growing dissatisfaction among Americans led to a rise of populist candidates. Trump won, and somehow managed to piss off pretty much everyone but his die-hard supporters.
I'm the president of the United States. Don't ever talk to the president that way.
Oh, and then COVID.
Stop. Don't touch that. We've probably lost enough viewers with that little ramble of yours.
You're right, but we're not trying to judge here. We're trying to help explain. Because as we've been reading more about the fourth turning and history as a whole, we realize that these are just people who are trying to make the best decisions they could at the time. However, it's clear now that a lot of those choices have and will lead us into the upcoming climax of the fourth turning.
So what should we do? Get in a fetal position and kiss our asses goodbye?
First, whenever I get depressed or agitated by the news, I take a deep breath and remind myself that unfortunately, this has to happen. The partisanship, the conflicts, even the wars, we won't avoid it unless we stop being human beings. A quote from Mark Twain sums it up the best. It is not worthwhile to try to keep history from repeating itself, for man's character will always make the preventing of the repetitions impossible. So just learning to accept that has reduced my stress level tremendously. Also, whether you're red, blue, left, right, pro or con, remember that the role of these prophet leaders is to get you riled up and angry at the other side. If we can become more cognizant of that, maybe we can reduce some of the hostility to where we can actually find some common ground and resolve some of the issues that plague us. I know, but an eagle can dream. And then finally, it'll be useful to figure out what might happen during this climax and be prepared for it.
I've already built my bunker.
That would be the worst case scenario. Neil Howe points out in his latest book, The Fourth Turning Is Here, that society will undergo 5 key transformations. We'll move from an emphasis of individualism to a focus of community, from a system of privilege to one of equality, from resisting authority to upholding it, from short-term gains to long-term planning, and from a sense of irony to a return to tradition. In later episodes, we will be going through how many of these transformations are already occurring and how it might look once we are through this crisis winter and into the high of spring.
And boomers, these people will be the ones leading us through all this.
I get the concern. One of my biggest fears is that unlike past prophet archetypes, the American European boomers have experienced, honestly, a very privileged life. So much so that it won't be easy for them to let it go. There is a reason why they are called the Me Generation. Maybe if enough people start to understand the fourth turning, we can mitigate some of the potential pitfalls and help these prophet leaders understand that they must show us the way. They must be willing to sacrifice, endure the hardships, give up their wealth and resources to help soften the blows that the younger generation will face. If they can start leading by example, then who knows, maybe we won't have to live in a bunker after all.
Beans.
Wait. Don't leave just yet.
But the video is over.
No, we need to tell them to subscribe to our channel and promote more of our videos.
They're not idiots. They know if they want more videos about how to navigate this time in history or make fun of the political elite to subscribe to this channel. Or click on the links hovering above us. Right? You're not idiots. Right?